everyone, thank you for joining me. Welcome to day 4 of my 12 days of Crafty Christmas. Today I am going to be creating with the Winter Meadow Designer Series paper, and I've chosen to bring in this pattern, and I'm also going to be pulling in some stamps from the Iconic Imagery stamp set. That's this one just here, and some basic white cardstock. So I am going to be creating like a little box for you today. So we are going to start with our cardstock. So I want a piece of cardstock that measures 5 1/4 by 3 3/8. So 5 1/4 by 3 3/8. I'm going to come back and score that in a minute, and then I want a strip of cardstock that measures 1 1/8. So I'm just going to trim 1 1/8 off there, like that. And then for my Designer Series paper, I want a piece that measures 3 inches by 6 inches. Now, if you've got a directional paper like this one, you want the pattern to be portrait. So I'm going to cut at 3 inches this way, and then at 6 inches this way. Okay. So move my cutting blade out of the way. So my Designer Series paper, I am going to score at 1 1/4. Let's do it that way. 1 1/4. 2 1/2. 3 3/4. And 5. So you've got 4 sections that are 1 1/4, and then a 5th section that is just 1 inch. So I'm going to fold those. I'm not going to burnish because I've scored on the Designer Series paper, and the Designer Series paper is a bit thinner, so you shouldn't need to burnish them, just the scoring should do the job. So that's that piece ready. I'm just going to move those scraps out of the way. So that's that piece. This long strip of 1 1/8, we're just going to leave that to one side for now. And then our piece of cardstock, we are going to score on the short side at 1 1/8. And then so you can either score at 1 1/8 and then 2 2/8, or you can score at 1 1/8 on the right hand side of your trimmer and then turn it around and score again at 1 1/8 on that side of the trimmer. And then on the long side, we're going to score at 1 1/8. So for my 1 1/8 measurement, I'm going to do it to that side, and then I'm going to flip it around and score at 4 1/8. Okay, so I'm done with my trimmer. So I'm going to fold and burnish all of my score lines with my bone folder. It's just going to give me a nice crisp fold, just going to help to keep my box together. And then I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to cut up my score line. Actually, let's turn it over. So I'm going to cut kind of just to the side of that score line. I'm just going to very carefully take out that tiny little sliver, because I want to make sure that I don't take too much of this end piece. So that tiny little sliver, and then what will happen is this centre one will fold in, and then these two will fold out. So I need to, so that I get it nice and flush, I need to trim a little bit off the outside of that piece, just like that, just a tiny bit. And then when we fold it up, oh no, that one, like that, it sits nice and tidy. And then we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So just carefully trim either side of that score line, so you're just taking out the tiniest bit, like that. And then the same again for that one. And then let's move those bits out of the way. So now when I fold up my box, I should get nice and flush on that side, and then just need to do the same on that side. Actually, that side sits nicely. Okay, so I am going to do a little bit of stamping on here. So I am bringing in the little trees from the Iconic Imagery stamp set, and I have got my Lost Lagoon ink pad here. I'm just going to ink up our tree, and this ink pad is really juicy. So I need to do Belle's Trick. I haven't got a card handy, so I'm just going to use my bone folder. Ooh. I'm just going to push that ink, and then I'm going to grab a clean wipe. Otherwise I'll end up with ink everywhere, and just give that a clean. So because there's a lot of ink in the ink pad, when I pop the photopolymer onto it, because there's so much ink, it kind of pools, so you get this kind of uneven pattern. So let's try that again. Yeah, so you can see that's better, because I'm going to be using a combination of stamped off. So let's stamp off and then stamp on, and I'm just kind of, I'm not too, oh, didn't do that very well. There we go. I'm not too fussed about which way up my trees are, so I'm just kind of stamping generally, and then I'll decide which side is going to be my front. So I'm going to have this side as my front, so I'm going to stamp on both of those as well, because you'll see the outside ones. And then I'm going to grab the other tree, and this tree is kind of the outline, or the kind of extra texture, and I think I'm just I think I might leave it like that. Actually, we will use that other stamp on the bit that we put on the front. So let's put the base of my box together. Now what I haven't grabbed is some tear and tape. Let me just grab that. Let's find the end. So when I'm putting this together, I am putting the non-stamped flap at the back. So I'm going to put tape on that piece, and then the middle piece is going to go behind this front piece. So I'm going to pop some tape on there. Oh, a stray penny here. And then I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. So bit of tape on that piece, bit of tape on that piece, and then let's rub over it. If you're having trouble peeling the release paper off your tear and tape, just give it a rub over with your bone folder and it will come off much easier. So I'm going to pop that on like that, and then do the next piece. Oh, she says rub over it with your bone folder. I didn't press hard enough, clearly. There we go. And then that one over the top. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. Oops. Fold that one over like that. And then again, a bit of release paper over the top. So this is kind of the tray of my box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a wrap. And then, so I want the fold to be on the bottom so that it will slide in and out like a little drawer. And then even though it doesn't need a belly band, I'm going to pop a belly band on it because I want to be able to pop like a nice little message or something on. Whoops. So let's stick this together. So I'm going to pop my tear and tape on my 1-inch strip. So you'll know you've got the right one because it'll be shorter than the one next to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half and then just close it over it like so. And then our little drawer will slide in like that. You could leave it just like that if you wanted to, but I am going to pop a little belly band around it, even though I don't need it to hold it closed. So that is what our strip is for. So you're also going to need a scrap piece of white. So I'm going to start at the bottom where my fold, where the double layer is already, and then I'm just kind of wrapping around. So kind of getting the idea of where my folds are. And then I'm going to come in and fold them properly and burnish them with my bone folder. So because the belly band isn't actually going to be kind of holding my box closed, as long as it fits onto my sleeve, it doesn't really matter about the measurements. If I was using my belly band to hold it closed, I probably wouldn't burnish the folds, just to make sure that it was kind of sitting nicely. So my edge is just a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off that one end like that, and then we can stick that together. So I'm going to pop that together with a bit of tearing tape as well, and just as I do it, I'm going to stick it together around my little box, just so that I can make sure that it's not too tight. And I'm going to make sure that my tape is at the bottom. Get that kind of lined up, and then I can take off the release paper, she says with great confidence. Let's try that again. Ooh, there we go. And the other bit, like so. And then just going to fold that up so it's nice and tight. And you could, I've made mine nice and tight so it's not going to just slide off of the paper. So when you kind of slide the drawer, kind of it will all come together. So now I want to decorate my little belly band. So I have got here the modern oval punch, and I'm just going to punch out a piece of basic white. Now this is too big for my, I mean you could just leave it that size, but I'm going to trim mine down. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and I'm going to trim off 1/8 of an inch from that side and 1/8 of an inch from that side, like, oh, let's make sure that we're straight. That does tend to help, like that. Is that enough? I feel like it wants a tiny bit more. Let's trim a tiny bit more off that side, and then we'll just roll with it. So it's not quite even, but it does the job. So I'm going to stamp on here with my little tree, and I'm going to do second generation, whoops, so where I've stamped off, and then I'm going to do, that's really inky, I'm going to do another one in the full strength to the side. And then for my sentiment, although this is a Christmas project, oh, I've lost half my sentiment. My other stamp is going to be stuck to something else, isn't it? I was going to use the sentiment, love, and then the U, but I've lost the U, so let's do, let's have peace and joy instead. So we've got peace and then the little ampersand and joy, and I'm just going to pop them on there so I can kind of get my positioning, decide where I want them. It's one of the really nice things about the photopolymer stamps is that you can see through. Oh, these are quite little and it's a bit fiddly, but worth it, worth the time to get it right. And then I'm going to stamp that in full strength of my Lost Lagoon. I could have put them a bit nearer together, never mind. Let's do one more tree there. I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to pop that on a dimensional or two. So I'm going to put them onto my little band rather than onto the bit that I'm going to stick on, just so that I make sure that I've only got the dimensionals on the band where I want them. And then pop that on the top like that. And then you could add some gems, maybe a bit of twine. And this cute little box, you could pop in a lip balm. You could pop in a couple of little mini candy canes. They'd fit nicely in there. Or what I think I'm going to do is pop a couple of Lindor. You do have to kind of squish the packaging a little bit, like the little ends, but you can fit two comfortably in that little box. And I just think it's so cute, and you don't need tons of cardstock, you don't need tons of designer series paper. You could do it the other way around. You could do your designer series paper on the inside and then your cardstock as a sleeve. This was inspired, I can't show you the original because I sadly took it apart to figure it out for myself, but it's inspired by a project. I'm taking lots of inspiration from the lovely Belle Green. She created a project when we went to On Stage at Rotterdam, and she made hers, so she had the designer series paper on the inside and then a cardstock sleeve, and hers opened out, and the box element and the sort of this bit, so you needed the belly band to close it, so this bit and the centre bit were attached together and it actually folded flat. They're really cool. I've got hang on, let me grab a similar project. So slightly different measurements to Belle's, but this was the same idea as Belle's. So you kind of slid off the belly band and then you opened it out. So you've got your designer series paper on the inside and it folds completely flat. Really clever. So that's my kind of inspiration for today's project. So thanks, Belle, for inspiring me always. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope that if you haven't already, you will go back and watch the earlier days, and I hope that I will see you again tomorrow for the next day of my 12 days of Crafty Christmas. Thank you so much for watching me. Take care. Bye.